I used to worry a lot about everything happening in my life. What if I couldn't pass my exams, or if I started a business that later failed? What if I couldn't graduate and ended up disappointing my parents? What if I couldn't find a job after college? And what if my friends didn't pay me back, leaving me unable to pay the bills? What if I got fired, and what would my friends and colleagues say, and so on? Now looking back, I realize I was destroying my life. Nowadays, stress and worry are leading causes of many diseases, such as heart attacks and various stomach issues. People who don't know how to handle worries tend to die young. After all, what's the point of building a successful business or getting a promotion if it leads to health problems? My attitude towards worries has completely changed after reading Dale Carnegie's book called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. The book is practical, easy to apply, and based on real-life stories. In this video, I'll share with you 13 tips from the book that will help you manage worries. I'm confident that at least 12 of these tips will stay with you for the rest of your life. Chapter 1. What's the worst that can happen? When going to attend any event up to this question, what is the worst that can happen according to Carnegie? The things we believe are really bad are not as bad as we think. I remember when I was preparing for my final exam in college, I was so worried and stressed that I couldn't sleep at night. It's so silly, but I thought that if I didn't pass that exam, I wouldn't be able to find a job and people would look down on me. Now it's been several years since I passed the final exam, and I've worked in various companies. None of them asked for my degree. I've only seen my diploma twice. The first time when I received it, and the second time when I was moving to a new apartment. That was it. Now, looking back, I wonder if it was worth worrying all that time about my academic title, and the answer is absolutely not. If I had clearly defined the worst outcome, I would have realized that in the worst case, I wouldn't get my diploma, which was very unlikely because I had passed all these exams during my academic career, indicating that I had the potential to graduate. Besides, the university provided 3 opportunities to take the exam, and I'm sure I would have succeeded in at least one of them. Even if I failed all 3 attempts, I could still have found a job. It's crazy how we worry and stress about things that are not so important in reality. If the internet goes down, we stress. If the TV breaks, we get angry. But can't we live without TV for a few days? Can't we go to a cafe to connect to the internet? Worry and stress drastically reduce our life expectancy. Follow this formula consisting of 3 steps. Step 1. Analyze the situation honestly and imagine what is the worst that can happen. Step 2. After visualizing the worst, accept it. Accept it as if it has already happened. Step 3. Once you've accepted the worst outcome, calmly dedicate your time and energy to improving the situation. Acceptance of what has happened is the first step to overcoming the consequences of any misfortune. One of the worst characteristics of worry is that it destroys our ability to concentrate. When we worry excessively, our minds wander. Acceptance calms us and allows us to focus. I strongly recommend using this tactic. I've been using it for years and the results always surprise me. I calm down immediately because it helps me see that even the worst case scenario is not as bad as I think. Chapter 2. How to remove worry from your mind. During World War II, a journalist asked Winston Churchill if he was worried about what was happening. Churchill replied, "I'm too busy. I don't have time to worry." Churchill wasn't trying to sound cool or strong. He was simply telling the truth. If you are genuinely busy doing something, worry cannot enter your mind. Nowadays, doctors prescribe to patients dealing with concerns to engage in some work. The reason is that it's impossible for any human, no matter how brilliant, to think about more than one thing at a time. Your brain simply cannot concentrate on 2 things simultaneously. You can't talk to a client and worry about rent payment at the same time. You can't be happy and simultaneously upset. You can't enjoy a good meal with friends and be bothered by a broken refrigerator at the same time. It is psychologically proven that our mind can only focus on one thing at a time. So, if you're worried about something and can't stop thinking about it, look for something that keeps you busy and requires all your attention. The reason I say all your attention is that certain tasks become habits, and you can do them automatically, like making the bed. The purpose of a habit is to save energy in your brain, which is why you can make the bed and worry at the same time. It should be a task that demands your attention. I would like to share a personal story about the importance of keeping the mind occupied. I had the experience of serving in the military and went through a 3-month training period before being deployed to my assignment. During these 3 months, we had a commander whom everyone despised because he never allowed us to sit and rest. From 6 in the morning until 10 at night, we did everything from military training to seemingly pointless tasks like collecting leaves under the trees during the fall season. Even when there was nothing left to do, our commander would find something for us, like sweeping the floor that we had already swept hours ago. You can imagine how much we resented him, but he always said, if you let a soldier sit and think, they'll create all sorts of problems. At that time, I thought it was foolish to think that way. However, by the end of the 3rd month and throughout the rest of my service, I realized he was right. For example, with just 2 days left in our 3-month training period, he allowed us to relax. And during those 2 days, 6 soldiers got into fights, and several other incidents occurred. One soldier even fractured his friend's skull, landing him in prison, and another was discharged from the army due to the trauma he experienced. Nothing major happened during those 88 days, but everything unraveled in those last 2 days. The reason was that we had time to think, and worrisome thoughts took over our minds. The military is a place where you have a lot to worry about, especially in the beginning. It's quite a depressing environment, and even simple things can make you feel anxious, depressed, and hostile if you don't occupy your mind. That's why our commander kept us busy all the time, so we wouldn't have time to worry. It's a lengthy story, but I hope it helps you understand the importance of keeping your mind occupied with some work. Chapter 3. Life is too short to be small. In the book, the author shares a story about an old and giant tree in Colorado. This tree had been standing there for 400 years. Throughout its long life, it had been struck by lightning 14 times, and the countless avalanches and storms of 4 centuries couldn't harm it. However, in the end, a small army of tiny insects attacked the tree and destroyed it. The storms, lightning, and the passage of time were powerless against it, but small insects, easily crushed between your index finger and thumb, managed to completely destroy it. The lesson here is that, just like this giant tree, we may endure the storms, avalanches, and lightning of life, but we let our small worries eat away at our hearts. These tiny worries, easily crushed, can overwhelm us. Let's not be bothered by small things. Remember, life is too short to be small. Chapter 4. How to analyze and solve worry problems. Confusion is the boss of worry. Half of the worries in the world are caused by people trying to make decisions before having enough information and understanding about the problem. If you take the time to objectively analyze the facts, your worries will evaporate in the light of knowledge. A well-stated problem is almost solved. Follow this 4-step formula to analyze and solve your worries. Step 1. Write down what worries you. Don't just keep it in your mind. Clearly write it on paper. Step 2. Write down what you can do about it. What are the possible actions you can take? Step 3. Decide what to do. Choose the best action from the previous step. Step 4. Start implementing your decision immediately. Don't hesitate to reconsider. Don't look back. Experience has shown me the immense value of decision-making. It's the indecision that drives you crazy, the inability to stop going in circles. It ruins your day and leads to anxiety attacks. If you follow the 4-step formula, you'll find that 50% of your worries will disappear once you make a clear decision. Another 40% will vanish once you start acting on that decision. As a result, it will eliminate approximately 90% of your worries. You might be skeptical right now, thinking that I'm making an exaggerated claim and that it's impossible to eliminate 90% of worries. You may be right, but even if this exercise only eliminates 40%, wouldn't it be worth it? Worry is the root cause of countless illnesses. Wouldn't you be happier if you could eliminate even a significant portion of such a serious problem? Chapter 5. Placing a stop-loss order on your worries. In stock trading, there's a common practice called a stop-loss order. Here's how it works. Imagine you buy a stock at $100 and set a stop-loss order at $90. As soon as the stock drops to $90, you sell it without any questions. We should apply the same principle to our worries. Let me share a little story. When I was around 10 years old, I had an argument with one of my friends while playing soccer, and as a result, we stopped talking to each other. The disagreement was so minor that I don't even remember it. But over the years, I held a grudge against him, and it always angered me when I thought about it. I carried this negative feeling with me for 12 years. I'd moved to a different city for university, but we still hadn't spoken. Finally, one day, when I was back in my hometown for summer vacation, I saw him near our house and decided to end this animosity between us. I told him I didn't even remember why we argued and stopped talking, but it's foolish to keep hating each other over something we don't even recall. Turns out he didn't remember it either. We shook hands and talked after 12 years. Yes, we had put an end to it, but at what cost? We both harbored negative feelings towards each other for 12 years. We could have had great childhood memories together, especially since we were close neighbors, but none of that happened because of a pointless argument. We both paid too much. When I look back on this, I feel like I paid $50,000 for something that was only worth $5 in life. Many of our worries are only worth $5, but we pay $50,000 for them. We need to place a stop-loss order on our worries. We have to decide how much anxiety a thing is worth and refuse to overpay for it. Chapter 6. Don't waste time dwelling on people you don't like. Don't force yourself to love those who don't please you, but for the sake of your health and happiness, forgive and forget them. When you hate someone, you don't harm them. It's quite the opposite. In reality, you give away more important things. For instance, when you stay awake, you give away your sleep. When you lose your appetite, you surrender your hunger. By increasing your stress, you compromise your health. The most important thing you can do is bury your hatred and move forward. Chapter 7. Would you accept $1 million for what you have? If I come to you now and offer $100 million for one of your eyes, would you sell it? Would you sell your arm for $100 million? You probably wouldn't. Here you have at least 2 things you wouldn't sell for $100 million each. Yet you worry and sacrifice your health to make more money. You know how this looks? It's like having a Ferrari, a dream house, and a private plane. But you're willing to lose it all to buy a 2010 Hyundai. Approximately 90% of things in our lives are good, and about 10% are bad. If we want to be happy, all we have to do is focus on the 90% and ignore the other 10%. Chapter 8. Live your days in small compartments. What does this mean? If you look at the bottom of a ship, you'll see that it's divided into many compartments or rooms. The reason is that if one part of the ship starts to flood, the doors of that compartment can be quickly closed to prevent the entire ship from sinking. Similarly, if you want to avoid flooding your life with worries, you have to close the doors of yesterday and tomorrow. Focus on today. The best way to prepare for tomorrow is to concentrate all your intelligence on doing today's work excellently. Today you worry about tomorrow. Yesterday you worried about today. Now take a moment and check if the things that worried you yesterday have come true today. 90% of the time, you'll see that they didn't, yet you still waste your valuable time on things that didn't even happen. Your life is like an hourglass. The top represents the future, the bottom represents the past, and the narrow middle part represents today. Many of us worry so much about the future or the past that we forget to do something. Worrying about the future is like trying to push all the sand to come and pass quickly through the narrow part. But no matter what you do, the sand will come and pass one grain at a time when the time comes. Don't push it. Let each grain of sand pass. Live one day at a time. Thank you for reaching the end of this video podcast. Thanks for being part of this community of entrepreneurs. Your comments are highly valued as we strive to continue creating this type of content. Leave your comments about this video, and if you find this content helpful, support us with your like and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.